Have you ever looked at a painting and felt like it was staring back at you? Like the eyes in the portrait were following your every move? That's the feeling I get whenever I gaze upon my husband's latest works. There's something deeply unsettling about them that makes my skin crawl. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Jessica, and I'm an artist myself, though not a very successful one. My husband, Robert, on the other hand, is a master with the brush. His paintings are in high demand, fetching top dollar at prestigious galleries. About 6 months ago, he decided to switch from his usual landscapes to portrait work. That's when things started getting strange. It began with his first portrait, a simple depiction of an old man sitting in a rocking chair. When Robert showed it to me, I noticed something odd about the eyes. They seemed too lifelike, as if the man in the painting was staring intensely at me. But I brushed it off as a trick of the light. As Robert continued painting portraits, that feeling of being watched only grew stronger. No matter where I stood in relation to the canvas, those eyes always appeared to be following me. My husband insisted I was imagining things, but I couldn't shake the eerie sensation. One night, I awoke to find Robert sitting up in bed, sketching furiously in his notebook by the dim glow of our bedside lamp. When I asked him what he was doing, he simply muttered, capturing the essence. His behavior was becoming increasingly erratic, and it scared me. A few weeks later, Robert unveiled his latest portrait, a stunningly realistic rendering of a young woman with piercing green eyes. As soon as I saw it, a chill ran down my spine. Those eyes seemed to bore right into my soul, filled with an intensity that bordered on malice. "Where did you find your model for this one?" I asked, unable to tear my gaze away from the haunting image. Robert didn't respond. He just stood there, transfixed by his own creation, with a slightly unhinged look in his eyes. From that point on, my husband became consumed by his work, spending countless hours holed up in his studio. I could hear him muttering to himself as he painted, carrying on one-sided conversations that made little sense. One evening, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to peek inside his studio while he was away. What I saw made my blood run cold. The walls were covered in bizarre, distorted portraits, twisted faces with hollow eyes that seemed to follow me as I moved around the room. Suddenly, Robert burst in, his clothes disheveled and his eyes wild. "Get out!" he screamed. "Can't you see they're watching us? They know what we've done." I fled the studio in terror, my heart pounding in my chest. What had my husband become consumed by? And what did he mean by what we've done? For the next few weeks, Robert descended further into madness, neglecting to eat or sleep, completely engrossed in his twisted portraits. I began to fear for my safety, but I couldn't bring myself to leave him, not until I understood what was happening. Then one night, I heard a blood-curdling scream coming from the studio. I rushed in to find Robert hunched over fresh canvas, sobbing uncontrollably. On the canvas was a grotesque, misshapen face, a horrifying amalgamation of features from his previous portraits. "I've tried to capture their sense, but they won't let me," he wailed. They're punishing me for my arrogance. As I watched in a stunned silence, the face in the painting seemed to contort and shift before my very eyes, as if coming to life. Robert let out another scream and grabbed a palette knife, furiously slashing at the canvas until it was nothing but shreds. In that moment, I knew I had to get away from this place, away from the madness that had consumed my husband. I packed a bag and fled into the night, leaving Robert to his delusions and the haunting, watchful eyes of his cursed creations. I tried to put the haunting events behind me, but the memories lingered like a waking nightmare. For months, I stayed with friends, too afraid to return to the home I had once shared with Robert and his cursed paintings. One evening, there was an insistent knocking at my friend's door. My heart raced as I peered through the peephole, half expecting to see Robert's wild eyes staring back at me. Instead, it was a solemn-faced police officer. "Mrs. Harris?" he asked gravely. "I'm afraid I have some difficult news concerning your husband." He proceeded to tell me that Robert's neighbors had called the authorities after hearing blood-curdling screams coming from a studio night after night. When the police arrived, they found the place in shambles, canvases shredded and streaks of blood smeared across the walls, but there was no sign of Robert. Trembling, I asked what had happened to him. The officer swallowed hard before delivering the grim news. "We found what appears to be your husband's remains in the backyard. It looks like he was mauled by some kind of wild animal, though the coroner's report is still pending."